Hello and welcome to Unleashed, the show that explores how to thrive as an independent professional. I'm your host, Will Bachman, and I'm here today with Mike Sarraille, who is former Special Operations. He was in the Marine Corps, switched over, was a Navy SEAL. He's now out. He runs a search firm called EF Overwatch and is the author of the upcoming book, The Talent War. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So, Mike, tell me about how you decided to set up a search firm after your time in the service.
I would love to tell you that I knew exactly what I wanted to do when I left the service. It's hard leaving the service, especially when you're with such a tight-knit community like the Navy SEALs, with a very select team within the Navy SEALs, and you leave that support network in there. It's very much a tribe. And I thought I had some inclinations as to what I wanted to do: investment banking, private equity, venture capital, and I was sorely wrong. And I really failed to define what success looked like to me outside the walls of the military. And had I taken time, I probably wouldn't have made as many mistakes on the pathway trying to find what fit for me. But one of the things I've always been fascinated with is how do you build high-performing teams? And I had a lot of experience doing that in the SEAL teams in the Marine Corps. And as I assessed the business world and how they hire and how they develop their talent, really found a gap in knowledge and performance versus how the military does it. And basically, I've created a blueprint from special operations and translated it over to the business world to help small to mid-sized businesses start to build their respective elite teams and dominate their respective industries.
All right, so tell me about some of the techniques or the tips from the world of special operations and recruiting that you've been able to apply to the civilian world.
Absolutely. It really starts with, and this is where the business world, I think, predominantly, and I hate to make sweeping generalizations, but I will, is they don't have a talent mindset. So special operations understands that people are your most strategic competitive advantage that you can ever hope to achieve. Special operations has actually something they call the 5 truths, axioms. And each of the axioms revolve around people and how they really define success for special operations. And every CEO, every business owner will tell the outward facing world that yes, people are their biggest priority, that their people within their company are their biggest priority. But rarely do their actions reflect what they're saying. It's not what you say, it's what you do. Their actions are contrary to what they're saying. I don't blame business owners. When you're so focused trying to drive growth and revenue, people tend to become a secondary or tertiary priority, if not further down the chain. And so, very often, you should say actually, very rarely do you see CEOs, owners, and executives really put time into talking about their talent, both getting the right talent into the door and then how you develop that talent and retain that talent to drive a competitive advantage for your company. So it really starts with the talent mindset. Secondary, and I'll stop after this, is there is a default mode for the business world, and that default mode is a bad mode. And that default mode is to default to industry experience as the primary factor for hires. Industry experience is not the best predictor of success. It never has been. Special operations does not go to high schools and colleges looking for people with prior special operations experience. It doesn't exist. So by nature, we've become very good at attribute-based hiring. Some people can call that character-based hiring. Other people call it potential-based hiring. Because we know if we find somebody with the right mindset and the right attitude in a series of attributes, to include effective intelligence, that we can teach them the hard skills of what they need to know. And with that hiring model, special operations has created one of the world's most high-performing teams that the business world is fascinated with, and for good reason. But rarely do we see companies that understand this principle. There are gentlemen, I'll use, Herb Kelleher from Southwest, founder and CEO. that once said, we hire for mindset, we hire for attitude. I teach people all the rest. But even though that is an adage, business leaders know, rarely do they follow through on that.
Yeah. Now, I'm curious about this. The impression that you get from just the media and so forth, and the media and film and TV images of the SEALs is that Bud's training is like really physically demanding. So the sense that I always got was like, look, I mean, and I was in the military, I was a submarine officer, was that, well, I can't even consider the SEALs because I'm just not strong enough and I'm not tough enough. Like I would never make it through that week. So the sense that you get is you have to be like really strong. You have to be a good swimmer. You have to be able to carry those big, heavy, telephone poles. But beyond that, like just beyond being like strong and a good swimmer and a good climber and those sorts of physical capabilities, what are the other capabilities that the SEALs and special operations are screening for that are maybe not quite as obvious from the media?
Well, Will, let me actually step back, because that is one of the biggest misnomers about special operations is that, we're looking for the fastest runner, we're looking for the fastest swimmer, we're looking for the strongest man. That's actually not the case. Are there physical gates that you must pass to get into training? Yes, they're actually not that difficult. And maybe I'm warped by saying not that difficult. But what special operations training is designed to do is, yes, there's a physical, we put these physical stressors on the students for a reason. It's not to see how physically strong they are, it's to see how mentally strong they are. And so through physical, let's say trials, we actually start to see people reach their thresholds, their limits, because that's only when you can identify somebody's true character. The reason we push people in special operations to their physical edge is because that's when we see what they're really made of. That's when true character emerges, or lack thereof. And so that's another reason businesses really in the interview process are not applying the right amount of legal, legal pressure to identify somebody's character. We had guys that were NCAA athletes, Division I football players. We had Olympic athletes who were amongst the first to quit in basic underwater demolition school. And then that kid who's maybe 40 pounds sopping wet, who did speech and debate in high school, is standing with the rest of the 20% who made it through at the end of Hell Week. We've had guys that were at JSOC that told me they didn't play a single sport in high school. All they did was work on their computers and did computer programming. So it's not a pipeline for athletes. It's not. What we're looking for is mental toughness. We're looking for resiliency.
So resiliency, is it like you're looking for people who are good at like collaboration or problem solving skills or communication skills, or like when you get people to the edge of their capabilities physically, like give me an example of something that you're testing for in like a scenario where someone who may be great athlete might fail at it because they don't have the capabilities you're looking for.
That is a great question. And let me start by saying, in the book, The Talent War, which comes out on 10 November that we wrote, we identified now 9 foundational character attributes of high performers. And one of them is resiliency. So some of these NCAA athletes and these Olympic athletes had never truly endured failure before. And again, part of special operations, the way it's designed, is everyone is going to fail. It's designed to make you fail multiple times. Again, not for the pleasure of the instructors. It's to elicit behaviors that we want to see. And so you may get knocked down 5 times in one day. And for an athlete who's never endured failure, that may be too much, and you don't like that feeling, and you end up quitting. So people that have endured, trials and tribulations in life and continually got up are much more equipped for basic underwater demolition school, because they've developed these mental scars, this mental toughness. But drive is another thing. You cannot create drive where it doesn't exist. One of the things that we're also looking for in SEAL, assessment and selection, or special operations assessment and selection as a whole, is humility. And if we see like a level of arrogance and ego, then that usually leads to people getting dropped pretty quick. So humility is a big one, and then team ability. The ability to work with other people, to put your self needs to the side for the common good of the group, which at the time the group is your team. And so those are some of the core things that we look for in special operations training.
All right, helpful. Thank you. So you were going through the 5 axioms. I'm curious to complete that list. So there's talent mindset. There was this. Let's run through the other ones. So you had these 5 truths.
Yeah. So it's not talent mindset is not one of the 5 special operations forces truths.
Okay.
I'll read them off to you here. It's number 1 is humans are more important than your hardware. And how many companies in the tech world get this wrong? Your competitive advantage, how you win is through people, not systems, not technologies. The second one is quality is better than quantity. What a lot of companies end up sort of defaulting to when they hit growth mode is what we call a butts and seat mentality. The worst thing you can do is start diluting your culture by just rapid hires and lowering the bar. It's rather you'd be better equipped or better. It would suit you better to make slow hires, even if that means everyone's working doubly hard until you build up the right number. Third is special operations cannot be mass produced. Now, it goes to show you talent can't be mass produced. That's what it's saying. Fourth one is confident. Special operations cannot be created after emergencies. Now, every time we've had a national emergency where we have to commit troops to combat, every single time our national command authority, the president and the Pentagon have said, we need more special operations forces. And every time our special operations forces leaders, this one, after 9/11, it was General Downing, that pushed back and said, we cannot do that. We will not do that. We will not lower the standard for special operations. So when you're doing workforce planning and projection and you're anticipating growth, you better start hiring quality people sooner rather than later, or you'll end up in the butts and seats mentality. And then lastly, the fifth one, special operations requires non-special operations assistance. Yes, it's awesome to be a Green Beret or a SEAL to go out and do the movies Hollywood loves to make movies about, but there is a long list of supporting functions to those Green Berets and SEALs that enable them to leave the wire and go do what they do best. You're talking about intelligence officers and intelligence personnel, logistics personnel, admin personnel. The list goes on. So for every business, while your salespeople may be your frontline sort of high scoring individuals, you need A players at every function in your business to set them up to do what they do best.
Talk to me about some of the other kind of major points you want people to remember from your new book, It's a War for Talent, right?
So this is what I want people to understand, is that this takes time. World-class talent acquisition or world-class talent management programs are not created overnight. The special operations assessment and selection process, which again, within private sector terms, that's the hiring process, has been evolved over more than half a century, and it continues to evolve, is part of creating, or how you start creating a world-class talent acquisition process is you sit down and you talk about it. And you have to identify what you're looking for. You have to define what success looks like. And usually we use our top performers to create those talent profiles that we're looking for. Once you engage in the process, you have to be extremely resilient, and you have to be extremely patient and committed and disciplined. As you make hires, you've got to create a feedback loop. This is what exists within special operations. With each hire, they assess how they did, and they follow that person throughout their tenure in the organization, be it 6 years or 35 years. And they're constantly asking themselves, if they're a high performer, what was it about that individual that got them through the training? What is it unique in terms of attributes to that individual that we should be looking for in our future special operations operators? Same thing with bad hires. If we have a SEAL that did something unethical, we're questioning. We take it very harshly. We're looking internal to say, what was it about that individual that we missed that we missed the fact that they were highly unethical. How did they get past our gates, and how do we make the changes to ensure that that doesn't happen again? So that feedback loop takes a lot of dedication. It takes a lot of discipline, but that's how you evolve. You evolve and accelerate and improve your hiring process.
I'd like to hear a little bit more about the type of clients that your firm serves. So you were telling me that you serve a lot of small and medium-sized businesses. Can you maybe give me some sanitized examples of, you don't need to reveal your clients, but the type of company that you might serve and the type of role that you'd be helping to fill?
So when I designed EF Overwatch, there were two people that I was focused on. One, the client, naturally, that's where the revenue comes from. We have to make sure that we're solving the pain point, which small to mid-sized businesses struggle in finding talent to drive their businesses forward. We all understand, your listeners understand, small to mid-sized businesses are the backbone of America, to the tune of, I think the last I saw was 99% of businesses are classified as small to mid-sized businesses. And then the second was the veterans, my brothers and sisters in arms, who I watched conduct selfless valor on a nightly basis during the global war on terror, demonstrate innovation and adaptation to the greatest extent to solve problems for which no book answer existed. And I know their potential. And the reason I chose small to mid-sized businesses is really there's no specialized executive search firm that serves them. Most of the Fortune 500s, if they need a high-level placement, they're going to turn to the major industry players like Heidrick & Struggle, Egon Zehnder, Russell Reynolds. Well, I specifically, my beachhead was the small to mid-sized businesses, and the hypothesis has worked exceptionally up to this point. One of those environments, the owners put a precedence on leadership over industry experience. They know somebody with the right mindset, the right aggressive nature to get in and drive results will take a lot off their plate so that they can make better strategic decisions for the company. And it's been a lot of lessons learned, but right now things are really picking up. Our clients, we're industry agnostic. We serve people in the construction community, the finance community, manufacturing, pharmaceutical, and really what's key to our success is we develop very deep relationships with our clients. I mean, we need to understand their pain points. We need to understand their business. And so when we approve clients, we spend a lot of time with them, and it really also leads to repeatability as well. Most of our clients come back for additional candidates.
So what sorts of roles within these companies are you working on? Particularly curious, people coming right out of the military who may not have that functional experience. Is it sales roles or supply chain roles or head of manufacturing? Like what types of roles are you working on typically?
Will, you'll be surprised. Right now, we are doing a CEO search for basically a specialized construction manufacturing firm. This is a mid-sized company, and their top candidate right now is a guy who has zero private sector experience, has 20 years in special operations, is a just absolute A player, and they're in love with him right now. So again, people understand that leadership is the most important thing in war. It's the most important thing in business. So from CEO to boards of directors down to about general manager is what we place. Hence why we're an executive search firm.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Talk to me about some of the ways that you assess the talent. So, you're working on a search for, let's say, a CEO, general manager. Beyond looking at the person's record, and obviously, having been in the military, you have a pretty good sense of what the different campaigns and ribbons and evaluations, how to translate those. But beyond that, you can't put the person through buds. So how are you evaluating the talent?
Quite frankly, most of the people have already gone through special operations assessment and selection. So they've already gotten through the world's most rigorous and longest behavioral interview. Most of our candidates come from the special operations community, the combat aviation community. It's very easy for us to reach back to credible sources and to find out about their performance and their credibility and their character. So we have a marked advantage where, executive search firms that pull from just the civilian populace, it's a little more difficult to validate those candidates. We still do put them through a personal assessment. One, we use something called the Elite Performance Indicator that was designed by Dr. Josh Cotton, who was the main contributor on the book, The Talent War. He's currently the director of assessments for all of Honeywell. And then we are also talking to them as well. So I'm a senior leadership consultant with Echelon Front, which is the leadership consultancy led by Jocko Willink and Rafe Badham, the two co-authors of Extreme Ownership. They're also my managing partners in EF Overwatch. So we are really looking for the 9 foundational attributes. We're grading them on those. We're doing reference checks. It's very much a multivariate assessment and selection program.
Oh, so a lot of your candidates are from the special operations community. So from your kind of personal network there, you're able to get references on folks.
Yes. And, I'm sure the older I get and the further I get away from military service, if we maintain the relationships that we have, it's just not hard to vet them. And a lot of them hold their top secret security clearances. We do a lot of placements outside of the special operations community. What we like to say is that we really look at military leaders, the top 10% from each of the respective communities, to include, the submariners. As you know, a lot of those submariners are extremely bright people, and they are ripe for placement into the correct roles.
What have you found are some of the most important things to get right for folks leaving the military to be able and be set up for success in a civilian role?
Some of the most important points is we help them start the pathway. So we developed something called the Accelerated Career Development Pathway. And it really starts, it's a 10-week sort of training platform, virtual, that we designed. It starts with defining success. Again, a lot of them don't define what success looks like. And that process for a lot of veterans means that your husband or wife is involved, decision makers are involved in it. And then really help them after they define success is, let's take a personal inventory as a leader. Where are you as a leader? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What can you contextualize in terms of military leadership and how that translates to the business world? And because of that pathway, I think it's helped a lot of veterans get their heads right. Veterans are wildly sort of boxed together as if they have, PTSD issues. That's not the case. We only take veterans that are well-rounded, that are high performers, that want to get into a business, they want to get into leadership positions, they want to drive results, and they've proven that in the military. So we are very selective in who we take in.
Mm-hmm. Tell me more about this process of defining success, and can you give us maybe a sanitized example of what the output from one of that exercises would look like?
Yeah, defining success, George Randall, the other co-author, and Carly Walden, who's coming on as the president and COO of the EF Overwatch. She was an Air Force vet. George was Army. They say when you go to the grocery store hungry, you end up shopping in the center aisles where they have all the let's say not so good food. But if you go to the supermarket with a plan, you end up on the outer aisles getting things that are healthy for you. Same thing with defining success. Is you have to sit down and evaluate what's important to you, and if you have a family, what's most important to the family. And ranking those type of things, like location. Is location a primary factor in your search? For some people, they want to go back to their home of the record. Maybe they drag their family across 10 deployments and 10 moves, and they just want to go back to their home of record. I get it. Maybe compensation is a primary factor, or industry. Maybe they know they want to go into construction. They know they want to go into defense. Other things could be values. Finding an employee that has shared values with the veterans. Work-life balance, benefits. Sometimes title's a big one. That's if they get a C-suite position, that is success in their eyes, regardless of industry. So it's different for every vet, and that's what we walk them through, is the process of identifying those factors that are most important to them, and then sort of prioritizing them and then conducting the search in accordance with those priorities.
Mm-hmm. And that's, I have a similar discussion when folks ask me for, advice on doing a full-time search for a job. It's, you want to think about each dimension of the job, like you said, geography, the industry, the function, how much compensation you're getting, what's the role, what type of company it is, big, small, private, public. And then you want to think about what do you want in each one of those, but then you want to prioritize across those categories, because you can usually get what you want in maybe one category, but not necessarily all of them.
Yeah. Yes. You have to rank them. You have to know what your top priority is, your second priority, and if you need to weight them, weight them.
Yeah. How have you gone about getting the word out and doing the client development for your firm of finding clients? It's probably even tougher for a firm like yours that's focused on small and medium-sized businesses, because it's a much more diffuse, larger number of potential clients versus going to mentioned Russell Reynolds, Heidrick and Struggles. A firm like that, you get embedded at one firm and then you kind of expand outwards. So how have you gone about the the business development side for your firm?
Will, I think it's okay to say not well. So that was not a core skill of mine, one I've had to learn through trial and tribulation. And so what we focused on is, hey, let's make some a few quality placements. Let's tell a story after that, and that's what we're slowly developing. I've got my marketing director right next to me, and we've made about 75 placements, and our hit rate, our success rate is extremely high. So he and I are doing a traditional road trip. We're not getting in a Winnebago. We're going to fly, but we're going to go out to clients and film just discussions with both the client and the candidate together at the same time, and start to tell that story more. The other thing was writing the book. We understand that we were passionate about the book. We also understand that if the book hits with some semblance of success, that will act as part of a funnel, both candidates and clients. And then ultimately, it really is the quality of our placements. It's that story that we can tell. Building a business, as you know, takes time. And I'm impatient. Trust me, I want this business to grow as rapidly as possible. But I also understand I need to make the right decisions. I need to be thorough in the decisions I make and give it a bit of time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What do you believe and to be true about talent that most people in the sort of human resources industry or the search industry would not agree with?
You know what? I think our book will naturally get a lot of criticism from people in the HR world. And what I would say is that will come from a place of fear. And George has 20 plus years in talent acquisition at the executive level. That guy stood up the veteran hiring program at Hewlett Packard, KPMG, before it was bought by Deloitte. Booz Allen Hamilton. He's made over 1,000 hires, highly respected. And even though he spent 20 years in the industry and I came out of special operations, I've only been retired for 2.5 years. We both had the same observations. HR is not structured in a way that it is set up to be a strategic function for companies. And sometimes it pains me to say that HR is not exactly a dumping ground for A players. And so when a B player or a C player in the HR industry reads this, they may feel that we're throwing criticism at it. And we're not. We just took a Harvard business case example to special operations community and it built a book it's a case study on how to take best practices and incorporate them into the HR world. But I think there will be a lot of people that disagree with what we're saying, and they will want to argue that industry experience is predictive of performance. Mm-hmm. And in a degree, the right industry experience, which has been shown to prove results, may be. But I think that's where we'll see a bit of criticism. And you know what? We're welcome to that. We're welcome to a civil conversation with those people if they want to have it. If they want to throw insults over digital venues or mediums, then George and I are more than happy to take it. And we're not perfect either. We are still learning in this game as well. And we'll be learning until the day we die.
All right. So for folks that want to learn more about your firm and about the book, where should they go online to do that? I can include these links that you'll share in the show notes, but where should people go to learn more?
Yeah, the company EF Overwatch is EFOverwatch.com. That's to our executive search firm. The book can be bought, The Talent War, anywhere books are sold. And based off the book, we've started something called the Talent War Group, which is powered by EF Overwatch Echelon Front. And it is 40 just amazing leaders, from top CHROs to special operations leaders with significant leadership and talent acquisition and talent management experience, psychologists. And we're going to be putting out a lot of content on LinkedIn to assist small to business. Consider it a small to mid-sized business leaders guide to building elite teams and managing the most important asset on their balance sheet, their human capital. And that can also be found at thetalentwar.com.
Fantastic. Well, Mike, thank you so much for joining today. It was really amazing to hear about your experience in special operations and how you're applying that to executive search. It was great speaking with you.
You too, sir. Thank you for having us on.